95.7 and AM 950. The Fan Rochester. The Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Sabres. The Rochester Americans. All of the sports we care about in Rochester are right here on the Fan Rochester. Listen anytime on the free Odyssey app.
The only way to take the Fan Rochester with you is the free Odyssey app. Download it today and follow the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Who he'd like the Bills to select in the draft. Do I humor him or do I begin the process of diminishing expectations? There's an easy way around this, Aditi. You placate him by indicating in the draft, there's always a chance. But then you give him a dose of reality and basically say, let's not forget the Bills are picking 28th, and they really can't control what happens in front of them on the board. So
the truth is the best way.
WPTF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The Bills have named senior defensive assistant Al Holcomb their new linebackers coach. Buffalo also promoted assistant defensive line coach Marcus West to defensive line coach.
Mike Danger.
Maybe I'll order my coffee from Amazon moving forward, just to set a tone. And I'm telling you, if you see me with the French press in the office, Gino, you know what's up.
Gene Battaglia.
The Sports Bar with Eugene and Christopher doesn't sound as good, right? No, it does not.
Let's go Mets. Go Braves.
Todd McClellan was fired by L.A. today.
Udo, Dirk Schneider.
Udo.
We have a trade to announce.
Winnipeg, they go and acquire Sean Monahan.
Hamerks Hockey against Laval.
Go Sabres. Pie in the face for me for saying that.
Pie in the face. Pie in the face of all of us.
More consistently inconsistent.
All right, enough about Groundhog Day.
Go Tigers. Dave Campo.
They do not have Waffle House in Minnesota, nor grits. You guys can't believe the amount of things they introduced me to down here, but man, do I love that Waffle House.
I haven't ever been to a Waffle House. I've only driven by.
Box wine bet.
Box wine bet?
Box wine bet.
The box wine bet is in effect.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Well, a good Friday afternoon to you. We appreciate you stopping by the Sports Bar, Rochester's only local sports talk show. You're listening locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950, or the free-to-download Odyssey app. Thank you. If you're checking us out online, our stream is on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, also on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. That is much appreciated. And for anybody that wants to join in on the show, pull up a stool, 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. I'm Mike Danger. That's Gene Battaglia.
So we are the same in many ways. There's one way we're different, and that's our wives. You go home, you don't get a scorecard. I get a scorecard, and that's why you dub my wife the executive producer, because she helps us.
Listens.
Yeah, she listens
intently, almost. And I hope she doesn't. She takes this in the spirit for which is. I think she's trying to catch you saying something incriminating.
Well, which I might have yesterday with our box wine bet, where I wanted just to be very confident in my take that because you have these big markets, New York, Dallas, Philadelphia, that Belichick's name is going to be bandied about this whole offseason, and these coaches are kind of on thin ice, in my opinion, in every one of those towns. I think he's going to be back next year. You were steadfast in saying, no, he's done. So I get home last night, Danger. Tell me what the executive producer's take was. Okay, I'll tell you. She's hoping you win. That I learn a lesson.
Oh, boy, here we go. Well, yeah. I mean,
she agrees with you.
Nobody cares when I'm right.
She agrees with you and does not agree with me.
I saw on one of the talking head sports shows, who was it? Was it Damian Woody? Damian Woody, who actually, I believe, played under Bill Belichick, believed that this is it for Bill Belichick, that he won't return to coaching next year. I saw that. I'm like, chalk that one in the list of people that agree with me. Nobody cares when I'm right, but like I said yesterday, I like the dark purple box, the velvet lush Pinot Noir, and we'll revisit it in about 12 months. We'll revisit in early 2025. Oh my God, sounds weird to say that.
I know.
The box wine bet is on: will Bill Belichick be a coach in the NFL next season? I say no. Gino says yes. And to the surprise of no one, the executive producer agrees with me.
Well, she doesn't like me losing bets to you, too. So she wants me to stop.
Can you imagine me having this conversation with Sandy if I went home and said, let me tell you about what happened today on the air. Gino and I made a bet on a box of wine that she'd be like, who's Bill Belichick? What are you talking about? Why do I care?
She's got to know Bill Belichick. No?
I could tell her Bill Belichick, but I don't think she knows.
Does she know Travis Kelce?
At this point, I think probably.
Okay.
Probably. You got to understand, my wife was leading the charge of the NFL has to be rigged because the logo has the two colors of the teams that everybody thinks. And so now, when I challenge her on that, so what are you going to say now? The Ravens didn't make it in. They knew that we knew, so they had to change it again. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
All right. I can't, I can't. I can't. I'm not going to say anything anymore. You watch the commercials, and I'll watch the game. Got a new subwoofer installed in the basement last night, Gino.
All right.
Just in time for the game. We're going to be booming. that halftime show is going to be booming. No, it'll be a great night. It'll be a lot of fun. Of course, we always look forward to the Super Bowl, but I can't help but think, as you know, ESPN is on here in the sports bar on the studio monitor, and they're it's the Pro Bowl, and they're rifling through a season's worth of defensive highlights, and it just hit me like a thunderbolt. Literally 30 seconds before we jumped on the air. God, I'm going to miss football.
I know.
I'm going to miss football.
I know.
Like, you see some of these plays, I'm like, this is awesome. It's so awesome to watch these guys, these athletes, do what they do every week, to make the plays that they make, the spectacular, the unspectacular, all of it. I'm just going to miss it so much. And this is where the dark days come in, right? Sunday night. A week from Sunday night, I should say, the game is over and the confetti is streaming down on whichever team wins, and you're hit with the realization. We were probably hit with this realization sooner than a week from Sunday.
Yeah, usually for me, it's the start of the fourth quarter, and then at the end of the game, you realize, wow, I ate and drank a lot today, and you're not feeling great about yourself and the choices you made. I am excited about one thing this weekend, though. Well, a few things. I'm calling the Tiger game against Niagara Saturday, but it's 5 o'clock. And this is kind of the new thing. The Amerks are doing the 5 o'clock. RIT's doing the 5 o'clock. It's great because you get home in time.
Mm-hmm.
New York Knicks basketball coming up. Saturday night, ABC, taking on the Lakers. Who knows if LeBron's going to be there? I don't care. I mean, just to have your team relevant again, it's kind of exciting.
How many games in a row?
That would be 9.
9 times.
9-game winning streak, Mike Danger.
They're fun, man. They're a lot of fun. I have a really good friend who's a Knicks fan, hardcore Knicks fan, all his life, through the ups and the downs. And he and I were going back and forth. And, I just think that they're a fun team. And Brunson is a baller and kind of carrying things. But you got to like what you're seeing out of the Knicks. And especially when you look at the landscape of the East, and I know we'll talk more NBA later with Trista Crick, BetMGM tonight, and the Heat Check podcast right around 4:25. Why not New York? Is this sustainable?
Consider winning right now. In the last 3 games, they haven't had Randall or Anunoby in the lineup, too. So that's a positive. Do they do anything at the trade deadline? Danger, I think they're good they can compete with anybody in the East.
I heard a point that Thibodeau will run his guys into the ground. And is that a concern? And look, with the NBA, with professional athletes, with these multi-billion-dollar organizations, we're all adults. Coaches, owners, players, us in the media who talk about it, we're all adults. So let's say Tom Thibodeau is notorious for running his players into the ground, and then by the time you get to the postseason, there's nothing left. Their tank is empty.
Listen, that's certainly a concern that maybe this team will peak too soon here. This is as good as it's going to get.
Is anybody having that conversation now? And I'm not an advocate for resting players. I'm not an advocate for load management. But if you know that that's the case, what is being done about that now to prevent that from happening down the road?
Well, I'll say this. I mean, the NBA wants to make sure that their best teams advance. Why? Because of all the sports, their series, in particular the early series, are so drawn out, Danger. Game 1 on a Sunday, Game 2 on a Wednesday, Game 3 on the following Sunday.
Yeah,
honestly, they spread it out. There's no back-to-back. There's no, there's game in between rest, and now you get a game. Look, they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Well, with them doing what they're doing, with what's going on in the East, especially with Philadelphia, and we'll talk to Trista about this as well with the Joel Embiid injury and what we kind of know about that. And if you're a Sixers fan, I think you probably have this reality, this future reality in your head. You kind of know how this is going to go if you're a Sixers fan, right? Because you've seen this movie countless times in the Joel Embiid era. You'll have Embiid for the next, let's say he comes back middle of March and he's wearing a knee brace and he's constantly, grabbing his knee and he's working through the pain and he's not, you can tell he's just not 100%, and he helps and he makes things better, and your team still gets bounced in the first or second round of the postseason, even with Embiid on the court. That's how it's always gone would you be better served just shutting him down and having a fully healthy Embiid to start next season?
No.
No?
No.
You don't think so?
No!
I think shutting him down now, and it's funny how there's some semantics about this injury. Like the Sixers put it out, okay, it's an injury to his meniscus. Sharania says it's torn. Okay, there's a difference there. And I guess every meniscus has some sort of tear to it. Again, semantics. Why not just rest him now for the next 6 weeks? But how far will they fall in the standings, Danger? That's the question I would want to put to Trista. What is the balance here? Because could they fall completely out of the top 6? Now you're farting around with a play-in round.
Right. I think it's unrealistic to think Maxey's going to score more than 50 points in Embiid's stead, and that's going to be a night in, night out occurrence. I think the Sixers will make, they'll be fine. I don't think they'll fall as far as the play-in tournament without Embiid in the lineup. But I still don't think that even if Embiid comes back, that it's going to mean that the Sixers are going to go on this magical title run this year. I just don't see it happening with this injury to Embiid. And it's a shame because he was playing at a very, very high level through the course of this season. Don Stevens, the voice of the Rochester Americans, will stop by the sports bar here in about 15 minutes as well. Big weekend series in Laval.
Yeah, this is your quasi homecoming, I guess, for Devin Levi, who grew up in Montreal, and again, he already played up there with the Sabres, and now does he get both games? I would assume he gets tonight here, but most coaches will kind of slow play it as far as how the game goes tonight, whether that you'll give him tomorrow. Tight turnaround, 3 o'clock tomorrow for the second of these two games, and we'll talk to Don about the season. I also want to talk to Don. He missed a couple weeks here, so hopefully he's doing all right, and glad to hear him back on our airways.
You can join us anytime this afternoon. The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line is 866-4FAN 585-866-4326. That's award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub. Their new locations at 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. The Buffalo Bills did make a couple of coaching staff moves today, Gino.
Yeah, so Al Holcomb is the new linebacker coach, and really that's just kind of shuffling the deck. And they also promoted their assistant defensive line coach. Now he gets the job moving on up.
Marcus West. So we're still wondering who is going to be the quarterback coach. That's the one that I think a lot of people are interested in. So you had Holcomb, who was brought in last season as a senior defensive assistant from Carolina. I hope you're sitting down. He before he came to Buffalo, he was the interim defensive coordinator there in Carolina. Steve Wilkes was promoted after they moved on from, was it Matt Rule? No, who did they get rid of before
Wilkes? It was Matt Rule.
It was Matt Rule.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. Too many coaches there in Carolina to keep up with. Frank Reich was only there for a cup of coffee. So he's got a little bit of that defensive coordinator experience dating back to his time in Carolina and prior to that as well. So Holcomb now will be in charge of the linebackers, a job that was previously held by the current Bills defensive coordinator, Bobby Babich. And now Marcus West gets elevated to defensive line coach, replacing Eric Washington, who, of course, is now the defensive coordinator in Chicago for the Bears. So West has been with the Bills for the past 2 seasons in that assistant defensive line coach role.
Yeah, and we still won't know anything about who's calling the plays here for the defense. That's another storyline that I guess we'll have to wait until the combine. And next time we're scheduled to hear from Sean McDermott.
Yeah, there's a lot of shuffling of coaches and assistants, and I've got a couple that came up that I have takes on here when we do. I'll drink to that later on this hour. What's going on in Tennessee is fascinating to me. The idea that the son is hiring his old man to be a coach, and I don't know what the Raiders are doing.
So like a reverse nepotism, basically.
Well, in Tennessee, yes, that the reverse nepotism, and in Vegas, I don't know what the Raiders are doing.
Well, it sounds like they're hiring your guy there, Mr. GQ.
No, beyond that, I'll explain.
I'll explain.
There's more to it than the Cliff Kingsbury offensive coordinator hiring. And I could actually live with that if I'm a Raiders fan. There's a couple of things that when I hear it, I'm like, oh, God, no. What are they doing? So we'll get to that here later on this hour as well with I'll drink to that in the sports bar.
Yeah, so we have time for your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. The table is set. from pop culture, Carl Weathers passed today.
What?
Yep, 76.
Yeah, but he's all over the commercial for FanDuel.
Yes.
Oh, come on.
I'm not kidding. He was, of course, best known for playing Apollo Creed in the first 4 Rocky films.
Dude, that's such a bummer. Really?
Yeah.
There is no tomorrow, Rock. There is no tomorrow. He's the best.
He also had that scene where they're running and they're jumping around in the
What's
water.
What's wrong with that? You got a problem with that?
No, I just
like problem with that
like
scene?
I'm thinking of Apollo Creed scenes from.
Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that scene, Gene. That was 2 athletes in the prime of their careers
celebrating a good day of training,
celebrating an unbelievable day of training, a breakthrough day of training, because there is no tomorrow. There was no tomorrow. I hate that news. That sucks, man. He was also in. All right, I'm gonna nerd out a little bit here. I mean, if I may. Nerd! Mandalorian. He's in the Mandalorian.
Is he really?
Yeah, God, I'm gonna miss him in the Mandalorian. That's a loss, dude. I don't like that. That's a big L. Just seeing him on the FanDuel commercials, my kids were like, "Hey, what's the guy from the Mandalorian doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's what he's kind of been doing now." All right, how old?
76.
Dude, look good for 76, Gino. Looked in shape. Not like you and I.
No.
You over there coughing up a lung, me scheduling a physical for the day after the Super Bowl. I scheduled a physical for the day after the Super Bowl. What the hell's wrong with me? I'm going to go in there. My doctor is going to be like, just leave. Just get out.
You do know what they do during physicals, right?
Moon River.
Yeah, and what's your diet going to be like on Super Bowl Sunday?
I mean, I'm going to eat a lot of chili.
Yeah, like
set a tone.
Your poor doctor.
Set a tone. I'm just going to say, get out. Get out. You're a wreck. How dare you schedule your physical the day after the Super Bowl? I guess I didn't strategize. I didn't think it through.
Well, the good news is I'm 53, no medication, and that's it. I'm like, I'm fine, dude.
You're good.
I'm good. Other thing, I got to lose weight though.
Okay.
That's which. How many?
Join the club.
Exactly.
Join the club. Everybody's gonna lose. He said as he was walking through the studio door, eating a cream.
I love that. Like how? Okay, so how? I love. How much do you drink? Oh, well, do you drink more than 3 drinks a night? And I'm thinking, okay, do you listen to my show? No. Oh, rarely. Rarely.
Yeah. How much do you drink? I don't know. I'd say like maybe 6. Oh, 6 a week. A week? What? Huh? Yeah, well, and to make it worse, new doctor too. New primary care physician. Mm-hmm. It's going to be just a disaster. I don't know why. What was I thinking? I have no idea.
You can reschedule that.
No, because I don't want to wait 6 months. Yeah, that feels like what happens when you reschedule, right? Oh, yeah, we can get you in October. Oh, all right, well, we'll see how that goes. The great Don Stevens going to join us next. Hey, the Amerks have 2 in Laval this weekend. Your home of Rochester Americans hockey here, the Fan Rochester. We will have those games for you tonight, tomorrow afternoon. They look to rebound from a loss at home against Syracuse on Wednesday night, and it's a Laval team that the Amerks have had some success with here. Most recently, dropping, what did they drop? 7 on them last weekend, I want to say? Was that 7-2?
Yeah, that was last Saturday. They put up 7.
So they'll look to repeat that success with their game tonight, starting at 7. Tomorrow afternoon, as you mentioned, Gino, starting at 3. We'll have Don Stevens in here next, and we'll get a little preview of this weekend's action. And don't forget, Amerks head coach Seth Appert stops by the sports bar every Tuesday afternoon at 4:25.
Yeah, I get a text today from Bo Jackson, who is our brand manager. Yeah, so Bo is on the beat too. Hey, I want to go to the game tomorrow. Can you get me 2 tickets? I'm like, Bo, it's in Montreal. Oh.
Well, Bo's still learning the geography.
I guess. Yeah.
Laval could be a suburb of Syracuse. You don't know. If you're not from here, you don't know. And he's learning. He understands Laval is a suburb of Montreal. You could still go. You wouldn't be able to get him tickets. Be a little.
I couldn't help him there.
Yeah, be a little bit of a hike. Montreal is probably beautiful this time of year. I would imagine that there's not a lot going on.
I want to get up there at some point.
Well, the action's probably in Toronto this weekend.
It is, but probably Don loves going up to Montreal as compared to like Belleville. And he will never say that on the air, though.
Well, we'll ask him. We'll ask him if he likes going up to. I know he likes
Laval.
The arena in Laval is beautiful, right?
It's like top of the AHL what they did.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get Don's take on this weekend's series there north of the border. He joins us next in the Sports Bar. The moment is here. It's your chance to shine. The spot that Del Monte has the secret for the best Valentine's Day gift ever. Nothing says I love you more than a gift card to the spot that Del Monte. They may not tell you what they actually want for Valentine's Day, but a gift card from the spot that Del Monte will show how much you've been paying attention. Gift cards are available for purchase in store or online at delmontespa.com.
Update.
It's the first and 2 for the Rochester Americans tonight in Laval. Seth Appert on the opponents.
We're playing good hockey right now, but these are important games up here. It's our last time playing Laval. We got them twice. Our division, there's going to be 2 really good teams that don't make the playoffs. That's how tight it is, and it's starting to look at the standings time, and you got to be points are at a premium.
Rochester in third place of the North Division. The voice of the Rochester Americans, Don Stevens, joins us next year in the Sports Bar. RIT is home tomorrow night against Niagara. The Tigers getting a tie last night, losing the shootout at Niagara. Some Bills notes today. Al Holcomb is the new linebackers coach. Marcus West has been promoted to the defensive line coach. He was the assistant last year. The Nighthawks tomorrow night play in Buffalo. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Tonight, Dustin Tokarski will play, and then tomorrow, Devin Levi will play. So we're we have 3 right now, and that can be hard at times, but there's a luxury of it when you have a tight turnaround for tomorrow. So Devin Levi will not dress tonight. Cooley will back up both games this weekend. That gets him; he gets to still be part of it in a week that he's not playing. And then for Devin, he gets to do extra work on the ice this morning and mentally kind of be free of not having to prepare and get ready for the 3:00 game tomorrow.
Managing through 3 goaltenders here, the Rochester Americans. Tokarski in between the pipes tonight for Rochester is there in Laval, and we welcome in from Laval Don Stevens, Hall of Famer, voice of the Rochester Americans. And Don, it was great hearing your voice the other night, and glad to hear you back in the booth. How you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling good, getting a little better, a little stronger each day. So things seem to be on the positive side anyway.
Well, Don, great to have you back. And you're up in Laval, and just watching this, when I hear it also on the radio, seems like that's one of the more funner venues in the American Hockey League.
I really like it. I guess most of the facility is the thing I like most. It's a perfect setup for what I do in broadcasting, and it's the best locker room and locker room facilities and that for the teams, for the players, and the building itself is because they get pretty good crowds now, so it's rocking, and so it's just a great fun place to come to.
Don, got to imagine that the atmosphere there for a game with the Rocket is, like you said, the crowd is going to be rocking a little bit. Do you get a sense that Montreal might be a little bit more quiet this weekend with All-Star festivities happening in Toronto?
Well, it doesn't seem that way. Of course, not everybody can go to the All-Star game or would travel over to Toronto, but they said that it's going to be a packed house tonight and probably sold out for the game tomorrow, which is an afternoon game, 3:00, and they've been experimenting with that and having great success with the early Saturday games. So the house will be rocking and should be fun.
Don Stevens, voice of the Rochester Americans. The Amherst coming off a loss to Syracuse, but the game before that, Don, putting up 7 against Laval. So how were the Amherst able to kind of break through that game? And I would assume try to do the same here coming up tonight.
Used up too many goals the game before, although they didn't score any the game before that. So it's really a roller coaster ride now, up and down. And I look back at the start of the season, the Amherst are scoring a lot of goals, but they were giving up a lot of goals. Now they're much better defensively, giving up very few, but they're scoring fewer also. So it's kind of you got to get the middle line in the two.
We led with Coach Appert talking about who's starting in net. We know it'll be Tokarski tonight, Levi tomorrow night. Talk a little bit about the challenges here of juggling through these 3 goaltenders and making sure that Levi is getting a proper amount of work since he's down here with Rochester and not up with Buffalo.
Well, it's not just the juggling of the 3 goalies here, but it's which one is going to be here. It seems like the constant switching back and forth of Levi and Comrie between Buffalo and Rochester adds an additional into the mix of what's going to happen. We just don't seem to know from one day to the next. I'm not sure who's really pulling the trigger on all of this, whether it be Kevin Adams or who. But so far, it seems to be working out pretty well. as they try and figure out what's going on with this goaltending situation.
Yeah, the Sabres have some issues, Don, and one of them, the injury to Jack Quinn. They're saying roughly 8 weeks, lower body injury. So, well, that means that somebody's got to go up, I would assume. So who might be the candidates here come next week?
Well, I don't know. They actually had a couple of extra. Gergensen's, I'm not sure how long he's out, but Olofsson's been a healthy scratch. So I don't know. There's a good chance somebody would be going up. And you got to look at a guy like Murray, for example. I guess I would hope at this point that they would leave the young guys still here to keep producing and developing at least for the remainder of this year. But who knows? Maybe they'll give him another chance. I don't know. But I look at a guy like Murray, for example.
Yeah, and Don, I think that both, Rosane and Kulik have had their chance to go up to Buffalo for a short stints. And really, is it as simple as does it come down to Kevin Adams saying, you know what, we need to get somebody to replace Quinn in the top 6, or do we need a veteran presence there and move somebody up and then bring up a veteran from Rochester to play in the bottom 6?
But like I say, Olofsson has been the healthy scratch, so they can certainly move him into that spot. Because he's proven his worth over the years, and maybe not as much right now, but he hasn't been playing as much. So if you give him more playing time, maybe he's going to do better.
Don Stevens, voice of the Rochester Americans. He's got the call tonight at 7, tomorrow at 3. A lot of hockey to talk about. Don, we haven't talked in a few weeks here. How was the outdoor game down in Charlotte? Didn't go the Amerks' way on the ice, but your thoughts on how that came off?
Well, I thought it went pretty well. It was a nice setting. And, it was very familiar to Frontier Field, the way the building sets and the office buildings in the outfield. Of course, there's a lot more and a lot bigger office buildings in Charlotte than there is in Rochester. But for me, in my setting, it was just about exactly the same. It was too far away and maybe a little bit too low. But it was a little warmer than it was at Frontier Field, to say the least. But, I thought the event went well, and it was just too bad the Amerks couldn't pull it out.
Their opponent this weekend, Laval. Don, what do we know? I feel like whenever we ask Seth about Laval, we get a lot of the same words, heavy being one of those words.
Yeah, they're a bigger team, a stronger team, kind of like Utica is, for example. And the Amerks need to utilize their speed as much as they can against this team. But, the division is all pretty much the same. The whole division, it's just amazing how tight it is. And I still think that, except for maybe Hershey, for example, the strongest division in the league is this one. Right now, it's just so important, these games in the division. The Amerks are playing a series of 8 straight here against the division. Syracuse was 9 straight. Utica also, they're a whole lot of interdivisional games right now. And at this point of the season, which is just past the halfway point, these games are all so important.
Don Stevens, voice of the Rochester Americans. What is this, like 12 games in the month of February, beginning on February? Don, this is a gauntlet coming up here. We have games on the 9th, 10th, 14th, 16th, 18th, 19th. Yeah, you throw in another Wednesday game here. I mean, how much is this team going to be tested here over the next month?
You had to tell me that, didn't you? I hadn't really looked that close at it.
Well, Seth brought it up to us. Like, this is like, you have 4 games in 1 week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, coming up in 2 weeks here.
Oh, I'm not feeling very good all of a sudden.
There he is.
Andrew, what are you doing tonight?
Yeah. You know what? It's still better than it used to be. The league has done great things with making, if you will, teams in the league play X number of weekday games. Because it used to be where we always played weekends, and whereas now we have 3, maybe 4, 3-and-3 nights on the week on the season. We used to have 17, 18, 19, 20 3-and-3s, which was just killers. But so the scheduling is a lot better. Not only that, but we've dropped down to 72 games now, so it's a little bit more slack. But we've always had very busy Februarys and Marches.
Don, with Syracuse fresh in your mind from Wednesday night, I'm curious as to get your impression of that team and seeing that the Amerks are kind of looking up at them in Cleveland in the division here. What differences and what challenges Rochester faces down the stretch here when they're going to have to face off against teams like the Crunch and the Monsters?
Yeah, they're so evenly matched. Every game has been just neck and neck all the way, and interesting in the series that it's been the road team that's won every game. So as much as I love to win in Syracuse, I just absolutely love it when the team wins in Syracuse. I just hate losing at home to them. So it's a great series, and it was too bad to let that one slip away because now the Amherst dropping a couple more points behind Syracuse for that number 2 spot, and it's important that just don't let them get out of reach. So with 2 games coming up next weekend against Syracuse, those are, to this point in the season, I think those are the 2 most important games of the year.
Don Stevens is going to be getting on the bus here shortly, heading over to the arena at 7 o'clock tonight. Do you get to at least go into Montreal tonight, Don, or are you more just stay at the hotel type of guy here?
Oh, no. When I get done with the game, I come back and I jump right on the computer and start working on tomorrow because the bus leaves at noon tomorrow, so I don't get much time in the morning to put it all together. So
guy never stops working.
No,
never stops working.
Yeah.
You bring up that schedule, and Don's like his heart starts racing a little bit there. Gino, Don, we appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. We look forward to your call tonight, starting at 7 o'clock here on the Fan.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. It's been a while, so give me a call anytime.
You got it, Don Stevens. Hall of Famer, voice of the Rochester Americans, joining us from Laval.
Yeah, that schedule for the Amherst. I mean, it's pretty rough there where you've got, and Seth even brought that up too. So we'll see. But the AHL All-Star break coming up, it's not as big as it was for the Sabres in the NHL break. So after Saturday, the team next in action Friday at home against Syracuse.
6-3-1 in their last 10 and 8 points behind the first place. They're tied for first place. Syracuse and Cleveland each with 52 points in the North Division. So the Amherst have some catching up to do if they want to lock down one of those top 2 seeds in the division.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on one thing Don said there because one of the storylines coming out of this weekend is going to be, all right, who goes up? I'm sorry, like the Sabres are...
They know what they have in
They
Victor
know,
Olofsson.
yeah, exactly. Give Rosane, give one of these guys a chance, and not on the bottom line. Though.
Selfishly, I'm with Don. Selfishly, I don't want to see the kids go up because they're important to the success of the Rochester Americans. But knowing what the purpose of the Rochester Americans is, you're developing these guys for a future in the NHL. Yeah, I'm with you. If it's a role in the top 6 and it's a role to replace Quinn on that second line, then you bring up Kulik or Rosane. If you would rather move somebody up into that second line, bring up some veteran help, then we can have a different conversation about whether or not Victor Olofsson is the guy that you make active. I get both plays. Selfishly, I don't want to see them move up Rosane or Kulik, but I also know that might be what's best for them and their long-term development as NHL players.
Well, as long as, Danger, you have them on the clear day roster, where the last few years is like, oh, clear day. Oh, yeah, we really don't care about UPL or anybody else coming back. No. All right, make sure that, like this year, Devin Levi should be the goaltender for the Amherst in the postseason.
Be a lot of fun.
Should be.
Be a lot of fun.
I mean, none of this he's established stuff. No, like if you're sending him down to get more work, well, then let him get some work there in the month of April.
Yeah, and it's this is, again, part of the winning culture that they're trying to build within this organization that has had a hard time winning at the NHL level. You've had that success here in Rochester. Seth Appert's done a great job with this team, and you've gotten them into the playoffs, and you've made some runs. A guy like Devin Levi could certainly benefit from that, and he was a winner in college, so he kind of gets it. I think that's a nice addition if he's the guy that kind of stays with the team through the stretch. Again, Tokarski tonight, Levi tomorrow night, and you'll have both, or tomorrow afternoon, I should say, and you'll have both games here on the Fan Rochester. Tonight's coverage getting underway after the sports bar, just around 7 o'clock here on the Fan Rochester.
Josh writing it. Danger, gonna smell like stale booze and chili. New doctor is gonna love you.
Oh, just hate me. I mean, she's just gonna hate me. She's gonna be like, what did you sign up for? What did I sign up for? No, this isn't worth it. No copay is worth this. Yeah, bad news. Bad news the day after the Super Bowl. Can't believe I did that. We got to get to a break here and come back with some takes on tap next in the sports.
Yeah,
bar.
I got a couple football thoughts here. One kind of fun. You're thinking about Vegas next week, and why I think next year, like, we're going to have this massive rating spike in the NFL. And it's just kind of interesting to me, and it's going to mean that everybody's going to continue to make money in this league.
Wait, you mean they're going to continue to boost the numbers in a favorable way? This is.
Well, when I tell you what they don't do, you might be surprised. Like, oh my gosh, they haven't been doing this. Oh, Bob Baratone, you might want to start doing this.
Couple of teams with some curious coaching moves, and I'll explain what I'm trying to decipher what's happening in both Las Vegas and in Tennessee. Some takes on tap next with I'll Drink to That. Trista Crick of BetMGM Tonight joins us at 4:25 as well here on The Fan.
You're listening to the Rochester.
I don't think the staff's going to get smaller. And it has been both on the field and on the sidelines with the coaching staffs. They like to develop people and have them plug in, like Terrell Bernard, moving in, evolving into the role. All these guys and coaches. Now, Babbage moving up, or Marcus West moving up.
So what does that mean for the Bills wide receiver?
Yeah. So Steph Diggs has spoken. It's down at the Pro Bowl. Now, he hasn't talked since the playoff loss to Kansas City. In fact,
Gene, this is what you were waiting for. You were waiting for Steph Diggs to get a microphone in his face and give us something juicy, something meaty.
Yeah, so this is courtesy Stephen Holder, ESPN. I do not have the audio of this, but I'll just read it. I feel like I take it day by day. Obviously, there's a lot of changes going on, a lot of things going on. I can't really put the carriage before the horse. You know what I'm saying. But I got a great offseason in front of me to put in a lot of work and kind of build around what we got and what we're doing. I can't tell you what the future holds, but I'm still being me. When he was pressed, hey, are you staying with the Bills? Quote, I'm ready to go no matter which way it goes.
I don't know. Feels a little anticlimactic. I mean, it kind of is what we thought he would say. I don't know that we thought he was going to say something. I mean, is there anything to take from that? It's very political. It's very non-committal.
It's leaving the door open to.
Should.
Yeah.
He should. I mean, because no lies detected from what Steph Diggs just said there. Do I believe he'll work hard this offseason? Yep. Do I believe that he's got to be ready for any situation? Yep. Could it happen where he's not in Buffalo next year? Sure. I don't think so. I think he probably does come back. I'd be surprised if they're able to figure something out and Steph Diggs is playing for another team in 2024. But yeah, everything he said there is fine. If you're waiting and hoping for something a little bit more juicy, sorry, like that's the right answer.
It's the right answer, but it does leave open the possibility.
The only thing that he could have maybe said on top of what he said there, which was nothing, is I'm still under contract with the Buffalo Bills. Right?
Yeah, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to get it done here.
But NFL players shouldn't do that. Like, their allegiance isn't to the team that pays them. Their allegiance is to themselves. They should get the money they can get where they can get it, when they can get it. And if that means Diggs goes somewhere else.
Well, he's not making, let's make one thing clear. He's not making more money if he goes somewhere else. That is much true. He would have to restructure.
That's right.
He would get some of it ahead of time, or if you restructure, that would open the pathway. That's the one thing that will trigger, maybe the Bills are going to move him. How they restructure it, Danger. How they restructure it.
And what his take is to how they restructure it. Because I would imagine that if you ask Diggs to take a significant pay cut, and if you're the Bills, you're in a position where you could say, hey, look at the production. It didn't.
Well, that's where you almost have to get the parties involved here. And if I had to do the end game here, that's why I don't think he's going to go anywhere, because why? What are you going to get in return? You're not getting a second-round pick. I'm sorry. You're not drafting another wide receiver with a second-round pick. You're getting a mid-round pick if you're lucky, because the team would have to absorb that salary, and Steph Diggs is on the wrong side of 30. It does not make much sense for that other team.
You need Brandon Beane this offseason to start thinking about who will be the next Steph Diggs, because you pulled the deal. You essentially gave up a first-round pick for Steph Diggs. You drafted Steph Diggs in the first round.
Which, A+. That is what put this offense on the track to just be on the doorstep of a Super Bowl. Honestly, that trade is a great move.
I know, we could debate who won the trade. Would you take the Bills side of the trade, knowing what we know?
Well, with Justin Jefferson, that's the impossible thing. Would the Bills have actually drafted Jefferson? I don't know. You needed somebody established at that point.
I will say this. They don't have to worry about paying Justin Jefferson to be the highest paid receiver in the game, which Minnesota is going to have to do this offseason.
Yeah, that's true. You don't have to worry about that. No, Brandon Beane, what's going to change here is, can the Bills identify who is going to be the number one receiver in 2025 in this year's draft? That's what the expectation is from all Bills fans. It should be number one wide receiver of the future. And that doesn't mean he takes the baton right now from Diggs. but it could be after the season. So,
hey, I'm all for it. I know everybody wants the Bills to do that. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I still think that when you're talking about the first-round pick, not a wide receiver.
I still think it's defensive line or safety or something. That
What we want them to do and what they actually will do usually are two very different things, especially when you consider that they invested a first-round pick in a wide receiver last year.
Oh, yeah, a guy who acts like Dalton
It's a wide
Kincaid.
receiver.
Also, when you look at it, I mean, there are smarter people than us, Danger, that say that you can get a good receiver in the second round in this year's draft. So maybe that's how the Bills play it.
All right, let's get to some takes quickly.
Yeah, quickly. Whoa.
No, I'm sorry. Shame on me. I'm thinking to myself, we run really late sometimes, and I know that people get into the routines and they want to be somewhere at a certain time. I like to give people like more of us. And as much of us as we can squeeze into our little 3-hour window.
I think so. Like Trista Crick will be coming up.
4:25.
So that's the one thing we got to be quick for. Vegas are bracing for more than 1,000 private jets to come into town next Sunday. Since everything is booked, though, in that regard, Henderson Airport added 18 extra acres of extra parking. Parking will cost for a plane anywhere between $750 to $15,000, which for an alien, that's nothing. We know that Taylor Swift will be one of those aliens landing. Got to be honest, the draft in Vegas, that was kind of a letdown. I had these big visions of player coming out of the Bellagio. You couldn't even really tell it was at Vegas. But the Super Bowl in Vegas, they could break every record. TV, secondary ticket price, and the number of private jets.
Yeah, so what's the airport? Is Henderson the airport in Vegas? I thought it was it McCarran? Is there 2 airports in Vegas?
I think there is Henderson, yes. So that is...
Henderson is just for the private jets?
Henderson County, that's where... So there must be 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about 1,000 private jets, or we can just call them UFOs because they're housing aliens.
Yeah.
Billionaires. It'll be landing in the middle of the desert, descending on Vegas for the Super Bowl. That's a ridiculous number. And you're talking about, every record, the secondary ticket price, what we're hearing, and every hotel being sold out and any available rooms being priced, just absolutely gouging you. It's a scene. It is a scene. And the bigger it gets and the more expensive it gets and the more aliens that descend on the Super Bowl, it just makes it a little bit more discouraging, I think, for us fans. Those of us that still want to go and attend a Super Bowl if your team is there. If you're a Bills fan now, you got to think about that. Do you really want them in the Super Bowl? Because are you prepared to take out a loan?
That is true, but I think it's Vegas driving everything up here.
Partially,
it's Vegas. It's the Chiefs storyline.
Well,
everything else.
Speaking of Vegas, the Raiders. Listen, you can be on board with their decision to retain Antonio Pierce. I don't hate it. And maybe Cliff Kingsbury's a better suited offensive coordinator in the NFL than he is head coach. Marvin Lewis also in tow now. And here's where you have to have a little pause. There are reports that have the team interviewing Hugh Jackson for a job on their offensive staff. This is the same Hugh Jackson that worked with Lewis for 5 seasons in Cincinnati before famously going 2-36-1 during his time as a coach in Cleveland. He was just fired from Grambling after going 8-14. And this is a Raiders organization that knows Jackson as well. He led them to an 8-8 record back in 2011. I'm sure he's a very nice man, but please keep Hugh Jackson away from any NFL team. We know enough, we've seen enough, and I promise you, there are more qualified applicants.
Why is this industry so riddled with this?
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah, it's awful.
The cronyism of the NFL.
It's awful. And they're all guilty of it. Look at McDermott.
Oh, for sure.
Holcomb. Oh, I knew him back then. I trust him.
For sure. Yeah. This guy's a zero. And remember the year they were on Hard Knocks, and you just got to you saw it on display. It's like, whoa, this guy can't get out of his own way. I mean, he has zero leadership ability, only talks about himself, wants to be the guy, but doesn't back it up with it. Just bad. Run. If you're a Raiders fan, run far away from Hugh Jackson. Hope that this doesn't happen. Can you imagine if Hugh Jackson's the quarterback's coach in Vegas and you're trying to develop a quarterback, or you're drafting a quarterback, or you trade for a Justin Fields and you got that guy as your quarterback's coach? No, thank you.
This is news that I'm sure is going to excite the NFL. Nielsen, they do the ratings, right? They're going to increase their out-of-home research by 44% this year. What does out-of-home actually mean? Crazy as it is, like if you watch the Knicks game at home tomorrow night and you got one of those diaries or whatever it is, well, you count. If you go out to watch it at the Tap Room at Bill Gray's or any other place, you don't count.
Whoa.
Yeah, better yet, maybe you aren't a sports fan, okay, and you just happen to be out at a bar and it's on. You still don't count. Well, now you will count.
Okay.
This is a big boost for NFL markets like Buffalo and New Orleans that were underserved by Nielsen. 2024, Danger, the idea that you weren't counting like any sports bar, any gathering place, record ratings.
How do you count that, though? Is that on the sports bar to report that, or is that just Nielsen? Like, how do you actually know how many bodies are in a sports bar watching the game that you...
See, that is how I don't know they're going to calculate this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, do you use like cell phones or credit card purchases? Like, how do you know just how many eyeballs are watching a sporting event inside of a sports bar, unless the people that are unless Nielsen asks the sports bar, okay, to report it.
Yeah, we'll pay like the buck here, and
whatever it is. Man. That's a tricky one. I'm not sure how they're going to figure that out. But hey, good, and you're right. That'll absolutely be a boost for the NFL ratings. Not like they need it because they've been exceptional. Remember when we first started this show back in 2016, and the big talk was that the NFL was going to see a decline, a dip. And
that
for
was Mark Hewitt. Pigs get slaughtered.
Yeah. For a second, there was a dip, just for a second. And then, now everything's back to normal, and it's only going to continue to grow. This Bill Callahan to the Tennessee Titans story, Gino, it just hits me as weird. Can you imagine working for your kid? Someday.
So Bill Callahan was like a failed head coach with the Raiders.
Failed. Got to a Super Bowl.
He was like the story was like Gruden was like telling the plays legitimately. Like Bill Callahan did not change the plays. It was.
I would say this. At least you could say this about Bill Callahan as a coach in the NFL. Accomplished. He's accomplished. Can you at least give him that?
Well, right. As an offensive line coach, sure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's what he's being hired to do. But he's working for his kid. How'd that interview go, by the way? Hey, Dad, you want the job? I mean, like, it just, all of it strikes me as weird. And I'm sure that there's something satisfying if you're Bill Callahan about seeing your son ascend. But now Brian has to perform as head coach, knowing that there's an added layer of scrutiny and potential disapproval from his old man right there on the sidelines. These are the kind of stories that make me believe that teams are going to be bad for a long time. I think the Titans are going to regret moving on from Mike Vrabel. They're going to wish that they had somebody like Mike Vrabel back.
Well, I think, too, if there's like whenever you have somebody on the staff that will report back to you like, okay, this coach, like Bill Callahan, would he try to root out any mole or anything like that?
Oh, he's going to have his kids back no matter what.
Right.
It reeks of a level of dysfunction. It doesn't. It just feels weird. How are you going to build trust with Bill Callahan when anything you say to him could go back to the kid? And if you're the kid, how do you tell your old man, hey, we need you to do this? It's just the whole thing is it's a weird, I got to imagine it's going to be a weird dynamic in those meetings and in team sessions. I don't like it.
How is Bill hands off, or if he sees things going sideways, is he going to pull his son aside? Has that ever been done before? Like an old man being an assistant?
I want to say this is the first time that a son, you've had a father-son combo on a coaching staff. I don't think Shanahan and his kid were on the same staff, were they? Was Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan on the same staff?
Maybe the Shula. Well,
or flip it though.
Flip it. We've had the Belichicks just most recently.
Sure.
Gibbs,
yes,
yeah, but we've never had it flipped like
that's
this.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, where the head coach has precedent over dad. Like if Steve Belichick was the head coach in New England and his old man was the defensive coordinator. Can you imagine? I can't imagine this scenario. It just feels very bizarre to me there in Tennessee. And Gino, I don't know how you do it. You've got a home full of critics waiting for you every night when you leave the sports bar. I can't I can't perform like that. I can't perform knowing that there's an added layer of scrutiny and potential disappointment waiting for me if I say or do the wrong thing. That's what he's got to deal with every day with his old man roaming the sidelines with him now that he's hired him to be his defense or his offensive line coach. Curious move in Tennessee. All right, Trista Crick, you mentioned it. BetMGM tonight. She's going to stop by here in about 25 minutes or so. We'll talk some NBA with her. We'll also get some of her thoughts on early Super Bowl betting lines. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we just heard from Steph Diggs there from the Pro Bowl. We can get into that next here in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan.
D2 Rochester and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Couple of promotions for the Bills coaching staff today. Al Holcomb takes over as the linebackers coach. Marcus West is now the defensive line coach. He was the assistant line coach last season. Of course, there's one job still vacant in Buffalo, the quarterback coach vacancy. Chris Brown on One Bills Live assessing that.
And really, there hasn't been much word on interview candidates for that position. Wouldn't be shocked if maybe some candidates were interviewed down at the Senior Bowl, because that is a coach's convention down there in Mobile every year. I would think they're going to fill that job. I don't think they're going to have Joe Brady handle quarterback and OC.
I don't think the staff's going to get smaller.
It is the first of two for the Rochester Americans tonight in Laval. We'll have the call. Don Stevens is by at 7 o'clock. RIT home tomorrow night against Niagara. The Nighthawks, another road game this week. They're down the thruway in Buffalo. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The Bills have named senior defensive assistant Al Holcomb their new linebackers coach. Buffalo also promoted assistant defensive line coach Marcus West to defensive line coach
Mike Danger.
Maybe I'll order my coffee from Amazon moving forward, just to set a tone. And I'm telling you, if you see me with the French press in the office, Gino, you know what's up.
Gene Battaglia.
The Sports Bar with Eugene and Christopher doesn't sound as good, right? No, it does not.
Let's go, Mets. Go Braves.
Todd McClellan was fired by LA today.
Udo, Dirk Schneider.
Udo.
We have a trade to announce.
Winnipeg, they go and acquire Sean Monahan.
Amherst Hockey against Laval.
Go Sabres. Pie in the face for me for saying that.
Pie in the face. Pie in the face of all of us.
More consistently inconsistent.
All right, enough about Groundhog Day.
Go Titans.
Dave Campo.
They do not have Waffle House in Minnesota, nor grits. You guys can't believe the amount of things they introduced me to down here, but man, do I love that Waffle House.
I haven't ever been to a Waffle House. I've only driven by.
Box wine bet.
Box wine bet?
Box wine bet.
The box wine bet is in effect.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Co-host of BetMGM tonight. You hear every night here on The Fan Rochester. Trista Crick going to stop by here in about 20 minutes or so. We'll scan the NBA's top storylines, including those red-hot New York Knicks. And we'll also get her thoughts on some upcoming betting lines for the Super Bowl a week from Sunday. We welcome you back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're listening along locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950, or in the free-to-download Odyssey app, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find the Sports Bar. Just search us out. And don't forget the Fan Rochester's YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. And we're on Twitter at The Fan Rochester, I should say X. This news story broke earlier this afternoon, and as soon as I saw it, Gene, it just brought a big smile to my face. I was like, you've got to be. Are you S-ing me?
Right. So let me give you the backstory here. So there's a Jacksonville mid-level finance guy. His name is Amit Patel. Turns out he's a white-collar criminal. He embezzled $22 million, and he did this through credit cards and different schemes and hiding receipts and whatever.
Was that wrong? Should I not have done that? I tell you, I gotta plead ignorance on this thing, because if anyone had said anything to me at all when I first started here that sort of thing was frowned upon.
Anyway, how did somebody not catch on to that sooner? $22 million? Well,
that's like $20 to a billionaire owner.
I guess, but there are books that you gotta kind of follow.
Sure.
He pled guilty to this, okay? Turns out that of that $22 million, $1 million went to DraftKings, $20 million went to bets at FanDuel.
No, he's a FanDuel guy like I am.
I'm not talking like, no, he's not a guy like you. He's like, this is like
He has a preference.
Yeah.
It turns out he likes FanDuel. So the Jags today, this is according to Schefter, have asked FanDuel to reimburse them for some or all of the approximately $20 million in stolen proceeds from a former employee that were lost on the site, and FanDuel and the company is unwilling to pay. Really? Shocking. If Jacksonville, if you're listening, let me know if that works. I would love to know if that works. If I can go to FanDuel and say, hey, any chance I can get back, all that money that I lost on that bet?
Well, under federal law, they might have a chance here, Danger. And I'm reading from the ESPN report. Gambling sites have a duty to perform anti-money laundering and know your client procedures to ensure they do not onboard funds of an illicit origin. This is according to a white-collar attorney here. Where the size of a customer's bets far outweigh their income, red flags are present, and there should be additional due diligence to confirm that the funds are clean.
That's on the casino? That's on the sports book to determine that?
It could be if you have a whale, as they call them. Mm-hmm. So that might be the case here. Like, hey, FanDuel, if we can take it to court, but you're just going to reimburse us.
But this was a high-level executive with the Jags.
The way this report says it's mid-level finance manager.
The Jags are reporting him as a mid-level finance manager.
Well, again, it's the ESPN report I'm reading from.
Yeah, that's well, hey, if it works, and maybe I should lawyer up. Not that I've bet $20 million on FanDuel, but my God, I don't know why FanDuel would have to. If I'm FanDuel, I'm laughing. I'm like, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, we'll comply. We'll follow your little. Lawyer up. Let's go. Good luck. Good luck extracting the money that you lost back from us.
We should also point out that he was taking trips to the Hamptons, Miami, driving. That he worked for the Jaguars. He was driving a Jaguar too. Like, okay, yeah, living a little bit beyond your means.
Great guy, trustworthy, and for them to not know, that's just perfect. Of course, they wouldn't know. Of course, it would all fly under the cloak of secrecy. They wouldn't. These billionaires can't possibly keep track of every $1 million here, $1 million there, $1 million here. Shad Khan doesn't know what's going on with his team as far as where that money is all going. He's only involved in the big money stuff, the stuff that's going to make him a multi-billionaire, more multi-billion-dollar deals. That's it. Diggs speaking today, Gino.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, we knew that this was going to happen because you're down in Orlando, casual setting, about as casual as you can be. And Good to the Diggs actually got in front of the microphone saying this is the money quote here. And again, maybe I'm stretching here a little bit. I can't tell you what the future holds, but I'm still being me. Stop short of saying, hey, I want to help the Buffalo Bills win a Super Bowl or something like that. It kind of sounds like he's willing to do whatever. If they want me back, I'm back.
Yeah.
If they want to trade me.
Well, given how things went last year, specifically before the preseason even got underway, I don't blame him for taking this stance. The head coach lied and painted a picture. And then you follow that up with what happened during the season where you had a reporter kind of paint an ugly picture of what Steph Diggs' personality is like. When
a team reporter, right?
Where there's really no justification behind doing what she did. If I'm Diggs, I'm like, yeah, take it or leave it. I don't really care. I'll show up and you'll get the best me, and I'll be me, and I'll prepare as if I'm going to play. But
the another quote, I'm ready to go no matter which way it goes, whether he's going to be in Buffalo or not.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected Diggs, the tone of what I expected from Diggs if we heard from him this week. So that doesn't really, none of that really surprises me. There's a part of me that still thinks that the Bills might be best served getting anything while they can. But I don't know that a team is going to trade for that contract. Do you restructure and then cut them loose, do a deal with another team? I don't know. And what are you getting in return? And I imagine they don't want to deal with any sort of dead cap weight.
I think we're talking about this time next year. Whether you just release him or you're just going to, take whatever you can get there.
Sure.
No, receivers north of 30, you're not getting any return on, especially with that contract.
Al Holcomb is your new linebackers coach for the Buffalo Bills. He'll slide into the role that was vacated when the Bills announced Bobby Babich would be their defensive coordinator. And then to go with the move of Eric Washington to defensive coordinator in Chicago, Marcus West is your new defensive line coach, replacing Washington. So Holcomb joined the Bills last offseason as a senior defensive assistant, and that was after a stretch run there at the end of the 2022 season where he was the interim defensive coordinator. You remember what happened in Carolina. Rule got fired. They promoted Steve Wilks. He was the interim down the stretch for the Panthers. Holcomb slid into Wilks' role there as the defensive coordinator for the rest of that season. And as far as West, he's been an assistant defensive line coach for the Bills now for the past 2 seasons. So he moves up into the role vacated by Washington, who heads to Chicago to be the Bears' new defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and I think the one vacancy we all want to see is will the Bills hire a quarterback coach, or are they going to just let Joe Brady do both jobs? I don't think there's any harm in bringing in a quarterback coach. But is it somebody that will be just chummy and buddy-buddy here with Josh, or somebody who can actually kind of say, hey, what are we doing here? So,
well, I don't think you can expect anything this weekend, right? Because Josh is playing Pebble Beach, and you're probably not going to get any sort of feedback or answer from what Josh might desire. If that's important, and I imagine that it is, that you want your quarterback to sign off on who you're going to bring in to be his coach.
Well, let me throw out a name here, and you tell me if you'd be into this. This guy was on the beach last year. What about Byron Leftwich? Just from the standpoint of somebody who played the position and an outsider. I don't want like cronyism here going on here.
Yeah. I mean, that name doesn't excite me. It really comes down to what Josh Allen wants, right? Like, Josh Allen's got to feel comfortable with this guy. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's just Brady. I mean, that would mean one less mouth to feed if you're the Pagulas, one less person on the coaching staff. But you heard Tasker earlier today on One Bills Live saying he doesn't think that the staff is going to shrink.
Well, and he kind of bring up that point. It's Joe Brady was brought in almost like, all right, if Dorsey ever left, like thinking he'd leave for another job, little did we think he'd get fired, but like you almost have to have somebody in the wings who will be the replacement for Joe Brady.
This has been the Sean McDermott era Bills' MO. It's always been about development, not just with players, but also with coaches. And you see it not just on the field with guys like Terrell Bernard, who in year 2 steps up into a role that he was drafted to play and do very well. And you hope that you get the same kind of production on the coaching staff from a guy like Brady, who you gave the opportunity to in the middle of the season, a guy like Babbage, and now you've got a couple of more guys rising up through the ranks. No real need to develop a guy like Holcomb. He's been a coach in this league for a long time, but getting that opportunity, working through the ranks and showing once again, this is where I belong. I should have this position.
Brad in Rochester has an idea. Hey, Brad.
Hey, why don't we just tap Frank Reich to be a quarterback coach? He's not getting a head coaching or OC job anywhere.
I mean, once you've been a head coach, do you really want to take that step back to being a quarterback's coach?
Well,
him coming back to Buffalo, he would be another voice in the room with Brady to help get that offense going, as well as Cromer and anything else. And the more experience with them can always make the offense better.
I like that idea, Brad.
Could actually give Josh a really stern voice of, I've been here. I know what you need to do in the Buffalo weather.
Yeah. It doesn't excite me, Brad. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't. And here's why. The last win for Frank Reich was what? Carson Wentz.
No, Frank Reich gets a lot of credit for navigating the Nick Foles thing and everything like that, going through to the Super Bowl. So Frank Reich has experience as a coordinator with the Chargers beforehand. I'm not going to ping him. He worked for the 2 craziest owners. Okay, 2 of them worked for Irsay and then going to that. So Brad, thanks for the call.
Yeah, look, I think on name alone, it makes your ears perk up, but it doesn't excite me 1 and 2. I don't think that a guy like Frank Reich, who's been a head coach now twice, is going to say, you know what, I'm done trying to be a head coach. I'm ready to be a quarterback's coach again. I mean, he's been that. He's been an offensive coordinator.
If there is one place he could come back to, though, this would be the one place he would. If you're Sean McDermott and they're both men of faith.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be surprising to me. And I know it would get a lot of people excited. You just hear the name and your ears perk up, I guess. But the track record, especially with what you saw, I know he didn't want Bryce Young, but did he even work with Bryce Young? Was Bryce Young uncoachable? Does Frank Reich know how to communicate to a young quarterback anymore?
That was really bad.
It was really
bad. Yeah.
Really bad. It was almost like he quit before the season even started. And I get it if the owner didn't want your guy, but that's what you were dealt. You said yes to that job. It didn't last very long. It would be interesting to see if Bryce Young all of a sudden becomes viable with a new head coach, with Dave Canales and that giant neck. Homie, it's got to be the neck. It's got to be the neck. Trista Crick, BetMGM tonight. You'll hear it, you normally hear it. Tonight you'll hear Amerks hockey, but BetMGM tonight, weeknights here on the Fan Rochester. We'll talk some NBA. You could also hear Trista on the Heat Check podcast, and we'll get her thoughts on the Super Bowl as well. BetMGM tonight's Trista Crick next on the Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. update.
It's the first and 2 for the Rochester Americans tonight in Laval. Seth Appert on the opponents.
We're playing good hockey right now, but these are important games up here. It's our last time playing Laval. We got them twice. Our division, there's going to be 2 really good teams that don't make the playoffs. That's how tight it is, and it's starting to look at the standings time, and you got to be points are at a premium.
Dustin Tokarski gets the starting goal tonight. Devin Levi tomorrow. Tonight, Don Stevens will have your call at 7 here on the Sports Leader. RIT Hockey is home tomorrow night against Niagara. Bills coaching notes today. Al Holcomb is the new linebackers coach. Marcus Wetz gets the promotion from defensive line coach assistant. Now he is the full-time defensive line coach. Rochester Nighthawks continue their trips on the road. Next stop in Buffalo tomorrow night. Gene Battaglin, the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Guys, odd to wake up this morning and see 3 tweets among the first 5 in my feed retiring Jalen Brunson's number at Madison Square Garden. I guess beating the Pacers in February is a big deal.
Now to a minute 50. 1 point Indiana lead. Pass nearly picked off by Nembhard, kept alive by Brunson. Driving into the paint. He's fouled and hits. The continuation, and Brunson will hit to the line.
I mean, I got nothing to say.
What about these New York Knicks, Gino?
Yeah.
I mean, at minimum, you could say they're fun, and let's find out exactly what the ceiling could be. Jalen Brunson, emotional last night. Chance of MVP in the Garden. We welcome in the co-host of BetMGM tonight. You hear her weeknights here on the Fan Rochester. Trista, it's been too long. How you been?
Way too long. I miss y'all.
Miss you too. Tell us a little bit about what you're thinking here with the New York Knicks, because it's been a while since Knick fans have felt this way about a team. Brunson seems to be a catalyst for something special here, and you've got a great coach in Thibodeau. What's the ceiling for this Knicks team, Trista?
Oh, I mean, you're talking about a team I would not be surprised if they were in the Eastern Conference Finals, especially with this Embiid injury. The Knicks have found a way to find a pass-first point guard who can actually score, get you buckets down the stretch, but who is a leader and a culture builder, which that's really hard to find. A guy who's, as small as Jalen Brunson, but plays a lot bigger, can set the tone on offense and on defense. He's not the best defender, but he's not a negative defender. He's the perfect Thibodeau disciple. He's known Thibodeau since he was a toddler, right, with his dad playing for the Knicks back when he was a youngster. So, hey, you add that, and you add Dante DiVincenzo, who he played with at Villanova. You add Josh Hart, who he played with at Villanova. Both of those guys the Knicks got for a song. The OG Anunoby trade was massive. I think that's going to be super meaningful in the playoffs when, it's a half-court game and everything gets much more condensed in the paint. I think it's better for Julius Randle as well. I hope he gets better as soon as possible. But I think that this is a team I wouldn't be surprised giving fits to a team like the Celtics.
Yeah, Trista, it's so excited. Like, I'm making an appointment tomorrow night where 8:30 Eastern time, you get the Knicks taking on the Lakers. We were debating this earlier, though. Could this team be peaking too soon, maybe? The idea that Thibodeau works these guys hard and that the postseason they might get tripped up here?
I mean, yes and no. I think it's an interesting notion, but you're talking about Villanova guys who and OG Anunoby who played for Nick Nurse, and Nick Nurse loves to run his guys into the ground too. So if anyone can withstand that load, I think it's them. You know how tough playing at a place like Villanova is, and like what their reputation has been under Jay Wright. So no, I don't know that they're even peaking. I think that they're just continuing to maintain at a time where they're down Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, and OG Anunoby, and they're still what is it, 9 games in a row that they've won.
Trista, you mentioned the Sixers, and there's no doubt that the Embiid injury hurts them a little bit here. We were debating earlier what the course of action could be for the Sixers here, because I think if you're a Sixers fan, you've seen this movie before, and you can kind of predict how this plays out, where Embiid comes back maybe at some point in the middle of March, but he doesn't ever really feel right, and then you see the Sixers exit the playoffs in the first or second round.
Yeah, I think you have to get Joel Embiid 100% healthy, right? And there's a bunch of different ways that you can go with a meniscus issue. You can, clip it a little bit, which I think that there's some possible, damage that could be done there. You can remove it completely, which I don't think is advisable. I think that was like a very old school mentality that guys like Brandon Roy did. And then you can try to use physical therapy to get it back right, but that takes a lot longer to get the knee back to being able to get onto the court. But if I'm Embiid, if I'm the Sixers, and you've got Tyrese Maxey, who is as young as he is, and all this, I guess, excitement, upside, and culture that you're building, I don't think you rush him back, man, especially considering that Embiid has had, lower body injuries his entire career in the NBA. So you just have to wait, be patient, and don't rush him back, and hope that everything that you've been building for the first 45 games continues to be true middle of March, early April.
So when you say don't rush him back, this isn't the kind of injury that you would consider shutting him down for, making sure that he's 100% healthy to start next season, would you, Trista?
I don't know enough about the injury, so I can't say that's directly. They're being very cagey about what the actual injury is. So I'd be remiss to give out an action plan and put my Dr. Crick goggles on. But as of now, I don't think that this is something you have to shut him down for the full year for.
Trista Crick, BetMGM tonight. You hear weeknights here on the Fan as well as the Odyssey app. And gosh, I loved your rant this week on the Sacramento Kings getting overlooked here for the All-Star game. Trista, I can understand this. If we were 3-4 years ago, but this is a top contender out west.
Yeah, it's insane. It's honestly, I knew it was going to happen to one of them. I just didn't think it was going to happen to both Fox and Sabonis. And listen, Karl Anthony Towns has had a fine year, but he's not even the best big man on his own team. Rudy Gobert should have been an all-star over Karl Anthony Towns. How do we know that? Because we've had this team before Rudy Gobert, and they were a play-in team, and now they're the number one defense in the NBA. So this is a testament to what Chris Finch has been able to do, adding Rudy Gobert in. So you've got that. Then you've got Paul George, which I'm not sure necessarily if you would consider the Clippers to have two All-Stars. You've also got Anthony Davis, who's been great, but listen, they're a 9 seed. I don't know how you make the case besides LeBron James off of his streak alone being an All-Star, because they're just too far down the standings, and that's why De'Aaron Fox wasn't an All-Star even earlier, because of team success, and that was the excuse. There always feels like that there's a changing of the goalposts on the Sacramento Kings in terms of how they get the accolades.
You mentioned the Lakers. They're a 9 seed now. That 9 seed went into Boston and beat up on the Celtics. So I guess my question is less about the Lakers and more about Boston. Can Boston be a championship team when it feels like they might have a deficiency in coaching?
Oh man, I don't believe in them. I've said this since really they got rid of Ime Udoka, that everything that I liked about Boston went out the door. Jason Tatum is just not one of those players that when it's crunch time in an important game, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about that before. When it's the fourth quarter of a playoff game, I just don't know how often you can rely on Jason Tatum to put his head down and take the ball to the hoop. He settles too often for these jumpers, 30-foot contested jumpers at that, these step backs. And until this team plays differently and not so isolation-focused, much more team basketball, much more clicking on all cylinders, I can't trust them outside of the regular season just being a very good team.
Trista, the Lakers are taking on the Knicks tomorrow night. They won last night, got them back to 500. Yay. Like any other team, you're talking about this ain't good enough. Let's shake this up. Is there anything real to this talk of LeBron moving to, first it was Miami, now it's Cleveland, or will LeBron just want to go somewhere where he can play with his son, to wrap up his career? What are your thoughts here on LeBron James and how this is going to play out for the Lakers this season?
Just a bunch of poppycock, really. I think it's just, internet chatter. And I think LeBron James, anytime he posts a meme, people want to figure out, what that is. And, Rich Paul said to ESPN earlier today that, this is just nonsense. We don't want to go anywhere. LeBron's not being traded. We don't want to have him traded. So I don't see LeBron James going anywhere else this year or next. But the Lakers in general, we don't give enough criticism to. Jeannie Buss and her cronies really making decisions not for the best interest of the roster, but just based on what they want to do on whatever. I don't even know what their real perspective is on how to build a roster. They can't figure out a way to put shooters around Braun. They haven't found a serviceable point guard because LeBron likes playing point guard, even though he's not as effective as it at that position. So I really don't know how you fix the Lakers. And that sounds crazy considering that they just went to the Western Conference Finals last year. But I think that was a bit of a fluke.
Trista, as we're catching up with Trista Crick here in our NBA headlines from the BetMGM Tonight show. You can hear it every weeknight here on the Fan Rochester. What went down in Milwaukee here over the last couple of weeks?
Oh, man. So first and foremost, it goes back to training camp when you hired Adrian Griffin, and he came up under Nick Nurse in Toronto, right? He's A.J. Griffin's dad. And the rumors are that Embiid Giannis, didn't want Nick Nurse to coach their team. So they ended up giving him Adrian Griffin almost like as okay, are you accepting this? So, yes. Then they bring on Terry Stotts on the team, and that was supposed to be this awesome partnership back with Damian Lillard, who he was, they were partnered together for 9 years on the Blazers when that was his head coach. Mm-hmm. And Adrian Griffin and Terry Stotts got into it, and Terry Stotts quit, I think, 3 or 4 days before the season began over something dumb at shoot-around. I knew that there was problems with his ego and his leadership style as a first-year head coach when something like that happened. And over time, you could see it in his coaching abilities. He just didn't really find a way to put together a good defense. The rest of the team essentially staged a coup 5 days into it. And ultimately, this isn't a team that you can really say has a lot of time to wait because both of their star players are in the middle or tail end of what their championship window looks like, and they're not willing to wait around in Milwaukee. So I don't know why they hired Doc Rivers, though, who they hired as a consultant to help Adrian Griffin, because he's no better than Adrian Griffin in terms of success.
Yeah, good luck with that. Trista, are you heading out to Vegas here? I mean, this is going to be a lot of fun next week. Your thoughts here on the Super Bowl, and, we'll be listening to you all next week, but, how do we make a little money off of this, do you think?
Yes, we're going to be in Vegas. We're going to be at the Mandalay Bay Poker Room every single night from 4 to 8 Pacific, 7 to 11, obviously East Coast time. So if anyone's in town for that, come say hi. I think we're going to have a live audience. I still like the Chiefs, guys. I can't really rule out Patrick Mahomes under any circumstance. I don't know how he's an underdog continually through the playoffs. I guess you could say each game was its own story in terms of why they were not favored, but it's just the same old thing. That defense is elite. Travis Kelce shows up when it matters most. There's going to be a lot of fanfare, but the truth of the matter is Patrick Mahomes is protected by the refs. He's going to use his legs. They're going to give the ball to Isaiah Pacheco. And I'm sure there's going to be some sort of heartbreaking way that the Niners blow it. And it might have to do with the refs. So I actually took the Chiefs on the money line. I also took the Chiefs -7 at plus 320. I just don't see a scenario where the Chiefs go home sad and the Niners win.
I think it's great analysis, Trista, and the more you think about it, if you really kind of break it down and think about how this could go, how do you bet against the Chiefs? How do you bet against Patrick Mahomes, especially when you have Brock Purdy on the other side, who, look, it's a great story, but it's just not the same level of talent.
Yeah, we've already seen Patrick Mahomes take down Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I mean, Brock Purdy is not the best of those three. We'll just say that.
Yeah, last time I saw Trista, she was coming up for the Cincinnati game. It was cold, it was snowy, and Trista this year was another disappointing end. From where you sit, it's a loaded question I'm going to ask you, but your thoughts on the Bills here. What is it going to take for us in Western New York to finally get over this hump?
Don't hold back either.
Yeah.
Well, I think obviously health is a big reason, and that's key. You've had 2 years now where there's been tons of defensive injuries, and the pass rush hadn't been as good as it needed to be in order to get stops. Now, the defense came to play against Kansas City, and you probably should have won that game. It played out exactly like I imagined it in my own head, except for Josh Allen took deep shots down to the end zone instead of going underneath the Stephon Diggs when he was wide open.
Yeah.
And you wanted to have zero time on the clock when you score to go up against Kansas City. You can't give them not a second, as we know. So that's key. I think there's got to be another wide receiver on this team outside of Stephon Diggs that you can really, really rely on. Like, Khalil Shakir is great, Gabe Davis, great. But I say great in kind of a disparaging way, like not a number one wide receiver kind of a way. And Stephon Diggs hasn't been great. He hasn't been himself this year. They force-fed him the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year. Then he was on a milk carton, and then he's just having crucial drops in the middle of a playoff game. So I think we need to take a hard look at the receiver room and probably a hard look at whether this is the right coaching staff from top to bottom to get over the hump.
Trista, you're fantastic. We really appreciate you carving out some time for us here in Rochester. Wish you safe travels to Vegas, and we'll be listening in on your coverage on BetMGM tonight there. Where'd you say you're going to be, at the Mandalay Bay?
Mandalay Bay Poker Room every
So
night, Monday
jealous.
through Friday. Come say hi.
So jealous, man. Now, it's been a long time since I've been to Vegas, but I think Mandalay Bay had like an elite pool. Like, if I'm not mistaken, like an elite outdoor setting at Mandalay Bay as well. I'm sure you're going to enjoy your time there, Trista, and we wish you safe travels.
Love you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Trista.
There she is, Trista Crick. Hear her on BetMGM tonight here on The Fan Rochester, and all next week live from Vegas.
Next week's going to be crazy. Like, you like sports radio, like Radio Row. Like, you might have the best Radio Row ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and hard to, you don't have to twist a lot of arms to get them to go spend some time in Vegas. Just a couple of days. Not too much time. Just a couple of days.
This is not Minneapolis, folks.
Just a couple of days.
We have Steph Diggs audio. Maybe we can play that on the other side.
All right, yeah, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get into what Diggs said earlier today from the Pro Bowl. Happy hours around the corner, round of shots as well. And you can pull up a stool and join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. With Valentine's Day coming up, check out Good Smoke's Sweetheart Deal. That's 11:30 to 9 on February 14th on Valentine's Day. The Sweetheart Deal, available for dine-in and takeout. And you can treat that special person in your life to a sweetheart of a deal that includes 3 meats, 2 sides, 2 cornbread, complimentary champagne if you're dining in, and 2 cupcakes for $32.99. Encouraging some reservations at goodsmokebbq.com. And Valentine's Day falls on a Wacky Wing Wednesday as well. Buy one, get one, dine-in wings also available. Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester, and goodsmokebbq.com.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. Leader, the Fan Rochester at home by asking it to play 95.7 The Fan.
Yeah, we also appreciate checking out the video stream. Our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. Danger and Battaglia back in the sports bar. Hey, we heard from Steph Diggs. You knew when he said yes to going to the Pro Bowl, at some point, somebody get a microphone in his face.
Yeah, this is him on the NFL Network. Cameron Wolfe is the reporter interviewing him. So let's listen to this. This is going to run 2:46. Steph Diggs asking about his decrease in usage, his relationship with Allen, and whether he believes he'll be back in Buffalo in 2024.
Steph, congrats on another Pro Bowl for a year. How do you maybe corral the celebration of what you've got with how the season ended for you guys?
I mean, we had a couple weeks to decompress, especially considering how the season ended. I had a conversation with a couple of my coach friends and, my peers. And, of course, the season ended how we want it. Of course, some plays that I want back. Of course, I know it's plays we all want back, but more so interpersonally that, some more out there. You know what I'm saying? We can say it every year. Hopefully, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully wishing, you know what I'm saying, getting as far as we can. We got a lot of talent. But, as the season ended, of course, it's just some shit you want back, you know what I'm saying? And you want to go as far as you can. And, you know what I'm saying? It's just not a one-person sport, you know what I'm saying? Of course, you want everything and you want the glory, all that type of good stuff. But, you know what I'm saying? That day we came up a little short.
You say there's obviously stuff you want back. Yeah. The year seemed a little odd for you. You weren't getting a lot of touches at some part of the season. And then, obviously, the last game, a little rough. Had maybe a drop. I don't know if you count that as a drop.
That's one of the plays I actually want back. I count on all the plays. If I touch it, I drop it. You know what I'm saying? If I get one hand or the finger on it, I still count it. That's why I like, mainly I'm always accountable first. You know what I'm saying? As a player, y'all know me for a long time. Of course, and even just this season, it's in its total, the balance of it, you know what I'm saying, rolling with the punches, the first 8 games and the last 8 games or 9 games or 10 games, however you dice it, it was a different picture, you know what I'm saying? It's something I had to get adjusted to, as a teammate, just rolling with the punches, being the best teammate you could be, best player you could be, and keep growing from it. So
I know, obviously, a lot of people outside of the building want to speculate on you and Josh's relationship. What does that mean? How would you describe where you guys are and moving forward, given what you just discussed?
Yeah, I've kind of touched on that multiple times, you know what I'm saying? I kind of at this point where I am, I kind of let everybody feel how they feel, you know what I'm saying? If you got your opinion, it's not an opinion-based business, it's a money-based business and a number-based business. So for me, I try to leave the personal out of it, you know what I'm saying? My personal relationship is my personal relationship. It's for the people outside of a relationship to kind of speculate or kind of draw conclusions or kind of figure it out as they go. But people that's involved in between the two people or anybody else involved are the people that know. So for me, I get tired of the same story over and over. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? For everybody else, it's a new off season for you to play around with.
You talk about off season. Last one for me. There's always going to be talk about what is next. Yeah. Obviously, contract becomes a thing, and you guys cap situation. Yeah. Where do you think you'll be? You think you'll be a Bill next season?
I don't know. I feel like as far as with the money and all that type of stuff, I can't control none of that. You know what I'm saying? I kind of put my hat on, and you know what I'm saying? Like I said, it's a long off season in front of me. As far as with the future, I don't have any surprises for you right now. But for me, I'm gonna still beat me regardless.
Appreciate you, Steph.
Hey, you know what? Good on Cameron Wolfe, by the way. Didn't hold back. He asked him the tough questions.
Yeah.
I mean, we have heard the relationship with Josh question now ad nauseum. If I'm Steph Diggs, I'm like, well, why are we still talking about this? We're good. We're fine. Even if it doesn't appear like they're good or they're fine, their personal relationship is their personal relationship.
It's a national audience, though. He gets asked about it here locally. This is the NFL Network asking him about this. I thought it was interesting, just the gut reaction, hey, we'd be back. I don't know. That's
out of my control.
Yeah, out of my control, yeah.
Out of my control. I none of what he said there is surprising to me. I mean, it sounded like Steph Diggs. And he didn't really give you anything, but he just didn't give you anything. That's kind of what I expected out of Steph Diggs. I believe what he says. When he says it's out of my control, I believe it's out of his control. When I hear him say, I wish I can get a bunch of plays back, he knows exactly which plays he wants back. Is he going to work hard this offseason? He's absolutely going to work hard this offseason. He'll be ready to go when you need him to be there. I don't think he's a bad teammate. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think he's the same player he was a season ago. Different viewpoint of Steph Diggs' performance this part of the offseason this year versus last year. I don't know that I would agree with Brandon Beane, who believes he's a number one receiver still. I think you need to You need to get the next Steph Diggs on this roster.
I think Brandon Beane has to say that for a couple of reasons. One, if you actually are exploring this, well, then, yeah, you want that
Pump
out
up the
there.
tires.
Yeah, and two, and the other part is like, okay, well, even if he's not a number one at this point, you have to at least hope that he's going to kind of bounce back next year. The question hasn't been asked, like, where did the production go, though? That was the one that kind of vanished. He was targeted just as much, Danger. And sure, there were some misreads by Allen, no doubt.
The only thing I would have asked differently if I was Wolf is instead of talking about how many touches or how many targets, production. Production took a dip. Targets, all of that aside, just overall production took a dip. And Diggs mentioning the final 9 or 10 games or whatever that was, I think might be a little bit telling.
Who took over then?
Right. So if there's anything that needs to be sorted out this offseason, going into next, now that we know that Joe Brady is the offensive coordinator, that it's his offense, that's something that they got to get sorted out. How are you involving Diggs? Can you involve him more? Do you want to involve him more? Is there a different role for him in this offense moving forward, knowing what we've seen of him so far in Joe Brady's offense? Which is an offshoot of Ken Dorsey's offense. And that's another question going into the offseason. How much of Joe Brady's offense is actually Joe Brady's offense? How much of this is just a repackaging of what Dorsey was, which is what Daboll was, which is what makes the quarterback most comfortable?
Or is this going to be something completely in a different direction? Does Joe Brady reinvent everything?
Well, we don't know who the quarterback's coach is going to be. We haven't heard of anything going on around that. But we do have a little bit of clarity on the Bills coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball, as Al Holcomb, who was already on the Bills staff for the past season as a senior defensive assistant, will now be the linebackers coach, with Babich moving up to defensive coordinator. And to replace Eric Washington, it'll be Marcus West, who was the assistant defensive line coach for the Bills here the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, and I think we're all kind of fine with that. I'm looking at this photo, if you could see this. I think the Patriots hiring Alex Van Pelt to be their offensive coordinator.
What happened to Alex Van Pelt, man? I mean, you were an NFL quarterback. And the other guy that I see during football season on Saturdays, Josh Heupel. Josh Heupel at Tennessee. When I see that guy, I'm like, dude, you were a quarterback. What? How? I mean, look, I get it, man. It's challenging out there, and everybody is strapped for time. And
yeah, we make poor choices, eating late at night, maybe having one extra cold one. But
holy
dude,
cow, Van Pelt.
Dude, you're around pro athletes.
Van Pelt, what happened? I don't even recognize him. It's crazy.
Well, I didn't even realize, like, Josh Heupel down in Tennessee, you were pointing out him, like, whoa.
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you were a quarterback. What happened? I thought these guys treat their bodies like a temple. I guess not.
Mike is calling in from Seabreeze. You can call us at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys. So I want to speak something into existence and get your opinion on it as far as the quarterback's coach.
All right.
Okay? Because you know how quarterbacks are, and they like to, have the staff around them. And, Josh has mentioned how he likes coaches around him. And there's a guy on their staff. He's the assistant quarterback's coach. His name is Mark Lubick. He's a great guy. I just think maybe they should go internal in that route and maybe look at promoting him. He's been there 7 years. He's been with a bunch of teams. His father was a long-term Colorado State coach. I think he's a great guy. So just want to hear what you guys have to say.
Hey, listen, if you're speaking that into existence, that doesn't feel like a big stretch when you consider the track record of the Sean McDermott era Buffalo Bills. A lot of promotion from within, and I guess the only thing that I would caution is, like, all right, what's his relationship like with Josh Allen? He's been with the organization that long. I'm sure that they're familiar with each other, but do they have the kind of productive relationship that Josh Allen would sign off on it? Because it feels like with this offense, that's the key. That's the critical element. Rather than bringing somebody from the outside in, promoting from within would be completely in character for what the Bills have been doing.
Yeah, Mark Lubick has the title of assistant quarterback coach / game management coach. Ooh. What does a game management coach do? Does the game management coach say, hey, we're at the 2-minute warning. We don't let Mahomes get the ball back. So
take the underneath stuff.
Take the underneath stuff. Worst case scenario, we're kicking with 10 seconds left on the clock.
I love that Trista pointed that out as well, that Trista parks her cars in because I know there's a lot of people that don't have an issue with Allen going for it and throwing to the end zone with under 2 minutes to go. I have a problem with it. I will have a problem with it. I get it. He's made that throw, and you have your guy, and you think you can take the underneath stuff. It's the better play. It's the smarter play. It does.
You bleed the clock, you win, and I know.
Here we go.
I know.
Even Trista saw Trista bringing it up is like, yep, thank you.
Well, Mike, appreciate the call and where we're talking about, hey, let's bring in Frank Reich. Hey, Byron Leftwich is out there. Let's get a real vet.
Well, yeah,
it's going to be Mark Lubick.
If it is Mark Lubick, then that's completely in character for the Buffalo Bills. And while it might not be a sexy name, it's fine. I have a feeling if Mark Lubick is getting promoted from within, that it comes with the endorsement of 17, and really that's all that matters.
Will called in offline. Just wanted to know, and I mentioned this to you, Break, the nickname for Alex Van Pelt, Pill.
It took me a second. Why Pill?
Pillsbury Doughboy.
Why not just call him Doughboy?
Yeah.
Why beat around the bush?
Inside, when guys needle one another, like how we needle Master Stroke or something, they're like, hey, Pill. You can't call him Fatty. You can't call him Chubbs.
Yeah, just call him Doughboy. What up, Doughboy? He might think you're talking about his money and not his stature. I don't even recognize the guy. That's crazy. I love that they're making a big deal out of it in New England. Alex Van Pelt is our guy. Okay. Good luck with that.
And your quarterback is?
Yes. Good luck with all of it, New England. I mean, if there's anything to take solace in, if you're a Bills fan, take solace in the fact that the rest of the division, save for maybe Miami, they don't have a defensive coordinator yet, right?
No, they do not.
Yeah. Save for maybe Miami, it still looks to be as dysfunctional as ever. Happy hour is upon us in the sports bar. We'll take a break, come back. We have time for more of your calls if you want to join us at 585-866-4FAN. 866-4326, the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Fan. It's me, Mike Danger. For
W239BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Some coaching assignments now for the Buffalo Bills today. Al Holcomb is the new linebackers coach. Marcus West is the new defensive line coach. He was the assistant last year. Still need a quarterback coach, though. Chris Brown on One Bills Live offers his take.
And really, there hasn't been much word on interview candidates for that position. Wouldn't be shocked if maybe some candidates were interviewed down at the Senior Bowl, because that is a coaches' convention down there in Mobile every year. I would think they're going to fill that job. I don't think they're going to have Joe Brady handle quarterback and OC.
I don't think the staff's going to get smaller.
It's the first of two for the Amerks tonight in Laval. It will be Dustin Tokarski getting the starting goal tonight. Devin Levi at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Don Stevens has your call tonight here on the Fan Rochester beginning at 7. RIT is back home tomorrow night against Niagara. The Nighthawks in Buffalo tomorrow night. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The Bills have named senior defensive assistant Al Holcomb their new linebackers coach. Buffalo also promoted assistant defensive line coach Marcus West to defensive line coach
Mike Danger.
Maybe I'll order my coffee from Amazon moving forward, just to set a tone. And I'm telling you, if you see me with the French press in the office, Gino, you know what's up.
Gene Battaglia.
The sports bar with Eugene and Christopher doesn't sound as good, right? No, it does not.
Let's go, Mets. Go Braves.
Todd McClellan was fired by LA today.
Udo, Dirk Schneider.
Udo.
We have a trade to announce.
Winnipeg, they go and acquire Sean Monahan.
Amerks hockey against Laval.
Go Sabres. Pie in the face for me for saying that.
Pie in the face. Pie in the face of all of us.
More consistently inconsistent.
All right, enough about Groundhog Day.
Go Tigers.
Dave Campo.
They do not have Waffle House in Minnesota, nor grits. You guys can't believe the amount of things they introduced me to down here, but man, do I love that Waffle House.
I haven't ever been to a Waffle House. I've only driven by.
Box wine bet.
Box wine bet?
Box wine bet.
The box wine bet is in effect.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It's happy hour in the sports bar. That's Gene Battaglia. I'm Mike Danger, the guy that schedules his physical the day after the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's how I set a tone, Gino. You want to be my doctor? Hey, you're going to have to love me through the best and the worst of times.
Danger. And I'm sure most people know in our audience, there's one part of the annual physical that is not
Moon River.
And you're eating, what are you going to eat clean on Super Bowl Sunday?
Using the whole fist, Doc? No, chili. I'm smoking chili on Super Bowl Sunday.
Smoking chili, I'm sure IPAs.
For sure.
Yeah, you're a poor doctor.
For sure.
Move that appointment,
Not
dude.
happening. Not happening. Can't do it. Can't put it off. My body's a temple. Got to take care of the... Got to help.
Your body's
health above,
a temple.
Health
Yeah.
above all.
Yeah. Yeah, you ain't going to be treating it like a temple on Super Bowl Sunday.
No, of course not. Nobody does. Gonna go over the top. And then I'm gonna go in and get my physical the next day and apologize in advance. Look, everything might be a little bit skewed, all right? Any numbers you're looking at, just let's pretend.
You're not doing the blood test that day. It'd be like there would be alarms going off. There'd be,
I'd be like,
get this
what?
Man.
Seriously, get him to the ER stat. We don't know what's going on. This man's BMI is queso. We appreciate you joining us here in the Sports Bar, Rochester's only local sports talk show, 95.7 FM, AM 950. The free-to-download Odyssey app and the stream up now. You can watch us at The Fan Rochester on YouTube and on Twitch. Great conversation last hour with Trista Crick as we got caught up in the NBA. I feel like I'm ready now to absorb everything that the NBA wants to throw at me, have some takes on the NBA. Trista's got them all. And by the way, the New York Knicks are at minimum, the Knicks are fun.
That's fun tomorrow night. Like if you're saying what is the highlight of your sports weekend, the first weekend without football, and I'm not counting whatever they're doing down in Orlando with football. Does not count. The Garden tomorrow night against the Lakers. Yeah, that is interesting. That's at the top of my list. The New York Knicks. How many games have they won in a row now?
I'm counting backwards in my head. I know the answer.
9 times.
They've won 9 games in a row. So that's impressive, and they keep doing it without some of their stars on the floor as well. So Another impressive win, getting over on Indianapolis, on the Pacers, on the Indiana Pacers, I should say, last night at the Garden. And the Lakers on tap for tomorrow night for the Knicks. Trista also great, just sharing her thoughts on what's going on with Boston, what's going on with Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And with the Sixers, man, I'm serious. If you're a Sixer fan, I know that we don't really know. There's conflicting reports on just how severe this meniscus injury is for Joel Embiid. But you're a Sixers fan and you've been through this before. You know how this goes. When you actually play it out, if Embiid comes back in the middle of March, he's going to miss time. He's not going to be 100%. He'll play a handful of games. He'll miss a couple of games in the middle of a series. And your team is going to get bounced midway through the postseason. So I just asked the question, like, would it make more sense to just shelve Embiid for the rest of the season and have him come back fully healthy from this knee injury 100% next year? Because
hard to say. I think Trista laid it out perfect. And the thing you don't want to do is a clip or play. You got to do the rehab. Apparently, that's the way that you want to have.
And that's going to take the most time.
That's going to take the most time. So where you say March, all right, would they fall to 7th? That's the question they've got to ask. And I think it's real. You got a long way to go here. And if so, okay, well, then you're playing in the play-in round. And the concern is, I hear what you're saying, and if you get to April and it's still not completely right, then, yeah, you would shut him down for the rest of the year.
Because you know how this goes. We've seen this, right? Even in the postseason, it doesn't matter. He'll miss a game or two because he's not 100% and he can't go. And when he goes, he's not as effective. So which Embiid would you rather have? That Embiid in the postseason, battling and struggling and not 100%? Or would you rather just say, all right, well, this season is this season. It sucks. Nobody likes it. I mean, I hope that these are the conversations that they're weighing.
Well, you table it, obviously. Like, nobody knows like exactly what the timetable is. And the fact that they're being, not very forthcoming as far as the degree of the tear here on the meniscus.
We'll talk about what's going on with the Bills here in these coaching changes. There was another bit of breaking news from earlier today, less in the world of sports, but kind of crossover in the world of sports, a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think this one kind of hurts because, well, sports, he was a Raider. Did you know that? I didn't know that this guy was a Raider.
Man, back in the 70s and 80s,
everybody was a Raider.
But also, like, football players were everywhere in Hollywood. They were getting acting gigs all over the place.
Right. So, like, that Raider team had John Matuzak, Lyle Alzado. Like, you had some characters on that team. And little did I know until today, shame on me for not knowing this, Carl Weathers, like, before he became an actor, was an Oakland Raider.
Yeah.
76 he passed.
Carl Weathers passed away today, and most recently seen on the ads for FanDuel with Gronk and the Kick of Destiny coming up a week from Sunday. But and he was doing a lot of work on the Mandalorian. Like, my kids know. I'm glad that my kids got to see Carl Weathers in action, not the way we saw Carl Weathers in action, because I'll always remember there is no tomorrow. Rock, there is no tomorrow. Rock. Carl Weathers was fantastic.
The Raiders putting out a tweet. Like they're claiming him. Like, I guess, yeah.
Claim him. Go ahead. I'm claiming him. I thought he was fantastic. Rocky 3 is the best of all the Rocky movies, and it's because Carl Weathers was fantastic in Rocky 3.
Is that the one where he's jumping around in the water or whatever? He dies in Rocky 4, so that's
my I don't want. That's another reason why Rocky 3 is superior to Rocky 4. I don't want to see Apollo die. I don't need that. Apollo at the height of his powers. Give me Rocky 3 where he's talking rock off a cliff.
Come on, you don't get like emotional when you see Carl Weathers get
killed
by
man.
Drago.
I don't like it.
If he dies, he dies.
I don't. I must break you. If he dies, he dies. So cold. I mean, if we're gonna break it down in honor, in homage to Carl Weathers, who passed away at 76 today. Look, 3 is fantastic because 3 kind of introduced us to the sports training montage in movies, right? 3 was great because we'd never seen anything like that before, and you really got invested in it. Man, hearing him say there is no tomorrow and getting in Rocky's grill and really kicking the crap out of Rocky to get him to overcome his fears and to face Clubber and like all of it is great. What I don't like about 4 is they took the best part of 3, the sports training montage, and they basically turned the entire movie into one giant montage.
Well, you have the montage where Adrian says, "You can't win," and then he starts, driving around in a sports car, and the flashback.
There's no easy way out. Right, yeah.
Robert Tepper, yeah.
Right, Robert Tepper. Yeah, so, you have all of that, the entire movie is a montage. And I like Rocky 4, but I think 3 is just a better movie.
1 is probably the best.
Well,
that one is
got all the awards.
More, yes, that is the one where it was Oscar level. We loved
get
this.
it, but it was anticlimactic for me because he don't win. Sorry, spoiler. I wanted to see him,
brilliantly done though. It sets up for the sequel you want to see. Yeah,
right. No, it's an unbelievable franchise, and Weathers was such an important piece of that franchise.
Well, unbelievable, but what was it? Tommy Gunn. Well, 5 was crap. It was dog. That ruined everything. 5 was terrible.
I won't watch it. And the Creed movies, the more recent ones, they're fine. They're good. They're okay. I'm all right with them. Nothing's going to match 3 for me. Rocky 3 is the best movie in that franchise,
4,
hands down.
4.
You're a 4 guy.
I'm a 4 guy.
I'm sorry. I can't get over the montage. It's just one constant montage.
Come on. If I can change and you can change, then maybe we can all change.
I'm not about it. I was more about Apollo getting in Rocky's grill and telling him there is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow, Rock. There is no tomorrow. Rocky wanted to throw in the towel, quit for the day, walk away, and Apollo's just getting after him. And then they have the run on the beach. Yes, I know, Gene. I know why you don't. I know why you don't like 3. That scene makes you uncomfortable. There's nothing wrong with that scene. That scene is perfectly acceptable by standards of today, by modern standards. There's nothing wrong with 2 grown men, athletic, sprinting down the beach.
Sprinting down the beach and then
jumping up and down in the water.
Splashing and embracing in the water.
Yes. Yeah. It was totally fine. Completely normal. Nothing wrong with that. 3 is a great movie. God, I'm going to miss Carl. I'm going to miss him in The Mandalorian. He was great in The Mandalorian. I know that you're not.
No.
Right, now I'm going into different. Now I'm going in a different direction. But it's too bad. God, Happy Gilmore. He was fantastic.
Josh Reddigan, can't forget about Predator.
He was great in Predator.
Yeah.
An untimely demise in Predator. But yeah, he was something. Gone too soon. I don't like that. 76, man. That still feels young for Carl Weathers. I had no idea that guy was 76.
Chris writing in, it's one thing to place the box wine mafia bet on if Belichick will coach again, but where's the bet on what the Bills will do in the first round of the draft? Chris, Danger and I think, are in unison here. What the Bills will do and what they should do. There's nothing bad here, dude.
I think what we think they will do is different than what they should do. And I know everybody's going to get on board and say wide receiver round 1. You'll hear everybody say it. I'm telling you, I know that that's what they should do. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think that they will still go defensive player, probably defensive line, round 1. Because
look at his track record.
Yeah, and I thought y'all told me that we drafted a wide receiver in the first round last year. You're going to draft a wide receiver in the first round 2 years in a row?
He's a tight end.
No, he's a wide receiver. Everybody told me he was a wide receiver after he was drafted. He's not a tight end. You didn't draft a tight end in Dalton Kincaid. You drafted a wide receiver. That's what everybody was telling me. Everybody was telling me that. You're going to draft a wide receiver 2 years in a row? Doesn't seem like the Bills' way. So there's no bet to be made there, Chris. Appreciate that. And Gene can't bet with me because he's been told not to. And you can't go against the executive producer.
No, finger waving in my face.
Yeah.
She's now actually pulling for you to be right.
Nobody cares. It doesn't matter.
I like the 2 people I deal with most in my life, my wife and you. Wait a second here. Hold on.
I feel like everybody's ganging up on you, Gino.
What are we doing?
No, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. I don't want to be against you, but on this one, I think you're wrong. I think Belichick is done. I don't care what happens with the Jets and the Giants. I don't think that's going to be enough to lure him out.
I know you consume a lot of sports talk, so when you're listening inside the Odyssey app next fall, the WIP or WFAN, or maybe down in Dallas, you listen to how like his name will get brought up as the fan bases will be clamoring.
His name will get brought up, and I think smart teams will know we can't hire this guy. He's not going to relate to our team. And what he did, while spectacular, is irrelevant to what he can do for us in the future. And by the way, what he did without Tom Brady is not that spectacular. With Tom Brady, yes. Without Tom Brady, You drafted Mac Jones, and you couldn't develop Mac Jones. And if you can't draft or develop a quarterback in the NFL,
that's a strike. Like we just kind of like he was coasting the last 4 years. Coasting.
You can't really. That's a mark on your resume. Not great. And yes, I believe that ageism is a thing. I don't think that they're going to hire a guy who next offseason will be 71, 72?
72 next offseason. Yeah.
Doubtful. Not thinking that's going to happen. But we got a box of wine on, and we'll see how it all shakes out. All right, so those coaching changes, if you're just joining us, the Bills naming Al Holcomb the linebackers coach. He'll assume the role that Bobby Babich had now that he's the defensive coordinator. Marcus West gets the promotion up to defensive line coach, replacing Eric Washington, now the DC in Chicago. Holcomb with the Bills last season, before that with Carolina. And West has been the assistant defensive line coach for the Bills here the last 2 seasons. We also heard today from Stephon Diggs at the Pro Bowl in Orlando, ESPN pulling him aside. And what we got from Diggs was kind of what you would expect to get from Diggs. Nothing committal.
Yeah.
And very much very Diggsian when asked about his relationship with Josh Allen. He doesn't really want to talk about it because he feels like he gets asked it all the time, and his relationship is his relationship. It's fine.
Yeah, Cameron Wolf from the NFL Network asked him about the dip in targets. It should have been the dip in production, so kind of let him off the hook there a little bit. But look, Diggs kind of left it open there. He did, which probably he has to. Like if the Bills come to him and say, hey, we've got this opportunity to move you,
or hey, we want to restructure your deal. How does that fancy you? How does that tickle your fancy?
Well, if I'm in his position, you want to give me money up front? Sure. You always take the cash up front.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they decide to do, not just with Diggs, but with every contract that might help get them cap compliant here. And we'll learn more about that here as the offseason rolls on. Monday, it's worth noting, we'll have a great show with a couple of guests who have their eyes and ears set on what's happening this weekend in Mobile and all this week in Mobile with the Senior Bowl. 325, Chris Trapasso stops by from CBS Sports, one of our favorites, and we'll be joined by Russell Brown at 425.
Yeah, Russell was actually coming back today, so all right, let's do this on Monday because we have the actual game for the it seems like the practices and the interviews and the networking, that seems to be what the Senior Bowl week is about. But we'll talk to Russell Brown and get his thoughts on what the Buffalo Bills could be doing and also the wide receiver position.
And with Trapasso, I can't wait to get him on with us because you said it yesterday. He put something out there about NFL head coaches, really with this hiring cycle and all of the names that have now emerged as new head coaches in the NFL and some names that have been dug up as head coaches in the NFL, mainly like a guy like Jim Harbaugh. Trapasso has a pretty strong take on that. I can't wait to get into expand.
Basically, you don't need a strong head coach anymore.
We'll get to a round of shots next in the Sports Bar, Gino.
Yeah, we've got stories coming up. Will we talk soccer today? Absolutely, we'll talk soccer. Lindsey Horan doesn't think we're very smart. We'll explain here. Also, we've got a local tie-in for the U.S. Olympic. We're going to be watching tomorrow. One of our friends here in the Sports Bar. Big baseball trade, too, to report.
All right, we'll get to that and more next. This hour of the Sports Bar brought to you by the Farmer's Dog. Fresh,